Starter kit for the FireMonkey project. Today I'm going to talk to you about a new project. Well, new in the sense that it has existed since last year. In fact, it's a starter kit project focused on software development in FireMonkey using Delphi. I'll give you some information about it, its dependencies, and about the template I just released. The majority of programs in C++ Builder and Delphi are developed using VCL. FireMonkey is not the most widely used platform, even for new projects. I find that rather unfortunate, especially since it has a lot of potential. For companies, internal use doesn't really pose a problem, since most are already on Windows or Linux from the start. For software publishers, it can be a good way to target other users with different operating systems. Windows, Mac, and Linux are platforms that need to be considered when creating new software. Mobile platforms too, but not necessarily for everything. And of course, we're not going to try to do business management on a phone, even if some people try. Web platforms in that form are also an option. However, that's a whole different world that I won't be discussing here. I'm Patrick Primartin, Embarcadero MVP, freelance in development and training around the web and Delphi. I also create content, as we say nowadays, for video and text platforms. You can contact me on vasseur.far/about or on Twitch. I stream there fairly regularly. My projects are open source on CodeRage or GitHub. You can find some of my projects, notably Delphi books, a catalog of books on Pascal and Delphi, the blog developer pascal.fr, my training course videos, and online presentations on apprendredelphi.fr. You can also find some of my software directly from Getit. FireMonkey was launched in 2011, introduced with the first non-Windows platforms in Delphi. It's been 14 years and it has evolved a lot compared to its big brother, the VCL. You can find the list of all the changes on the delphi.embarcadero.com website. As with the VCL, what isn't in FireMonkey can be found from third-party providers, or you can develop it yourself. I've actually been using FireMonkey since its launch. For my little video games, as well as for the utilities I distribute as shareware. Up until then, I was more into VCL and web, but the ability to do cross-platform development convinced me to stick with Delphi rather than switch to more trendy technologies. In VCL, there are project creation wizards, while in FireMonkey, you mostly find sample screens and projects that you can use to create your own. You can find a few of them on Getit. Since I was always doing the same thing whenever I created new projects in FireMonkey or in VCL historically, I thought it was time to bring all that together into a basic development kit to reuse for each project, and that's what I'm offering you this time. This PDF, the list of links, the replay of the presentations, and other videos will be available after the CodeRage on a code repository, the link to which you can see on the screen. FMX Tool Starter Kit is a code repository that contains a configurable FireMonkey project with examples. It is intended for creating desktop programs rather than mobile ones. You will soon find information, videos, and links on its website. My new programs are based on the starter kit. Migration of existing programs is underway. You can see it in action on a number of projects, the names and links of which are displayed on the screen. The links, of course, will work from the PDF if you download it from the code repository. And the source codes for all these projects are on CodeRage. I moved them from GitHub on the occasion of these changes. How does this starter kit work? Well, it's actually quite simple and complex. Or rather, no, it's actually very simple. It's simply a set of libraries that I already had separately, which manages the interface language, the FireMonkey styles, a dialog box to display license information, and more. When you press F1 or go into the corresponding menus, there's license and version management for the program in the form of an API, a menu on the main form, that puts the options in the right place depending on the operating system, especially dialog boxes and preferences on Mac, which are not usually in the same place as on Windows. And simplified project configuration in the form of constants, saving and loading of settings, saving and loading of documents, no matter what type of documents you use. Standard dialog boxes are provided for the options that are supported. The menu on the main form includes options for the document currently being edited or for the software itself. You can override everything in the form of classes or virtual methods in the forms. The starter kit can be used by cloning the repository. You can also use it as a template or as a zip file. That's also the purpose of the template I'm offering you. Translations are handled as a method within the forms. It's up to you to plug in the translation system you want if you don't want to manage it directly, on each project, or rather on each screen. FMX styles are included in the project to show you how it works, and because they have been distributed with all versions of Delphi for several years, of course you can customize them or add your own. Document management is handled as a class with inheritance, depending on the type of document that you want to manage, XML, JSON, binary, or something else. You can use the classes as they are, or rather inherit from them or directly from the common ancestor, which is supported by the starter kit and will allow you to manage any type of document, regardless of the storage format you wish to use. Just like the starter kit for video games in FireMonkey, this code repository also has dependencies, the About dialog box, which is common to all my projects and allows you to work on Windows and in FireMonkey if you use it separately. The Siltseg API for managing licenses and program versions. Of course, if you don't use it, you don't need to worry about it. It's hidden by default. Visual and non-visual components from my FMX extend code repository. Routines to make my life easier when managing styles, which you can also use on your end in the FMX style utils project. And of course, libraries from my toolbox, which contains lots of things that are used in all my projects. To make using the starter kit easier, I thought a pre-configured template would be the best solution. I've offered it to you this month for video games, and I'm also offering it for the starter kit for creating utilities in FireMonkey. So when I say utilities, I mean in general, software that manages data, possibly databases, possibly documents as such. After that, it's up to you, of course. This template is normally available on Getit, and it shouldn't be long before it is. And you can download it directly from the code repository of the starter kit, or rather the template, which is a separate code repository. The links are on the starter kit website, fmxtoolstarterkit.developer Pascal FR. When you create a new project, if you want to take advantage of all the features of the starter kit and its updates, I suggest you use Git. You just have to create your own code repository using the template repository as a model. You initialize the submodules and you update them. And when you make a new version, you just need to update the submodules and check that everything works with the new features and any bug fixes I may have added. If you want to migrate an existing project to the starter kit, I also recommend using Git. It's the simplest way, especially for the update part. Clone the template repository. Copy the folder and file structure from it into your own project structure. Add the submodules that are used in the template and transfer your features into the provided program, or adapt your program to those features. After that, you'll just need to update the submodules to benefit from the other features of the kit. And of course, adapt your projects as needed. You can also use the template or starter kit in zip format. Without bothering with Git, you have a version you can download from the code repository or gate it. Download it, reproduce the same folder structure, and that's it. All that's left is to configure everything. It should all work on its own without any difficulty. For updates, obviously, they won't be done automatically. You'll need to download the latest version of the zip file yourself and update what's in the external libs of your project. The current version of the starter kit works for all types of projects. However, the SDI and MDI modes, single or multiple document editing, are not yet fully operational. I still have some testing and development to do to finalize them before putting them into production, but they're included in the base model, so you can use them if you want. But still, be careful. As long as it's not officially active, things may change. In the meantime, I've also found a simpler way to customize the main form's menu, because currently, if you change the menu in a descendant of the form, it will eventually cause problems when trying to update if I make changes on my end, so it's better to do it through code. I need to find a simpler solution to allow this to be modified from the form designer. And of course, the documentation is missing to be able to use this properly. Explanations from all sides, you're going to have quite a few videos released in the coming weeks. But that doesn't replace written documentation, which is still something useful for a lot of people, myself included. The project is public, so don't hesitate to send me your suggestions and needs, especially if you want to use this and run into any issues. For now, I'm the only developer, as is the case with all my repositories actually. Everything is distributed under the AGPL license, and I also sell standard developer licenses for people who, for various reasons, can't use the AGPL license. I'm open to external contributions. Feel free to talk to me if you want to participate, keeping in mind that for now, I don't plan to change the licenses or the distribution model. FireMonkey is a reliable alternative to VCL for new projects. Don't hesitate to look into it when you have needs. Switching immediately to other languages just because they're more fashionable isn't necessarily the most relevant thing to do if you want something sustainable and possibly make use of your years of existing projects and experience. There are differences between the frameworks of VCL and FireMonkey, especially regarding databases, coordinates, and a whole bunch of little things that don't really cause problems in use but do require a bit of adaptation. In terms of features for pure Windows, FireMonkey doesn't offer everything as components. Of course, there are far fewer than in VCL. The components provided by Embarcadero are cross-platform components. They don't offer an API specific to any one OS. They provide features that are generally available on all platforms, or at least as much as possible. However, in terms of code, the RTL is the same. You have access to the full Windows SDKs and any APIs you want to use. There's absolutely no problem. I've recorded a few bonus videos for both French and English speakers. They will be available in the code repository for the presentation. If you want to find them, they will also be available on PeerTube and YouTube after the conference. If you have any questions about anything I distribute or anything else, don't hesitate to contact me, and maybe even reach out to me during a live Twitch stream. I can answer you in French or English, and then we'll see if I reply directly or if we discuss it privately, depending on the topic. There's absolutely no problem with that. This PDF, which you can read via the link, as well as the replays and videos, will be available in the code repository whose link I shared with you. You also have the link to download the starter kit, the template, and access to these code repositories. And of course, all the other information will be accessible from the website anyway. Thank you all for your attention, and thanks to Ian Barker and the entire Embarcadero team for this conference. See you at the next one. Bye.